Elizabeth Gaines, thanks so much for speaking to the program.
Pleasure to be with you, Rachel.
COVID crippled Brazil and its iron ore sector. How critical is it to keep COVID-19 out of mining sites?
Oh, it's absolutely critical to keep COVID-19 out of mining sites. We've been very privileged to continue to operate. Even last year, in the initial stages of lockdowns across Australia, the West Australian government did a very good job of convincing the federal government that we're an essential service. So we've been able to operate throughout, and as a result, we've made a significant contribution to the Australian economy and the West Australian economy. The fact that the government can continue to support those individuals who've been impacted, and we've seen that recently in Sydney, Melbourne and now in Queensland, with payments to support them while they've been impacted by COVID. A lot of that is due to the strength and the performance of the resources sector. So it is critically important that we continue to operate.
Last year, the resources sector was particularly at the forefront in terms of testing workers before they went out to sites. Even in some cases, I think workers that were still in the city were being tested regularly. What is FMG doing at the moment to prevent the virus getting on site?
Well, we've had numerous protocols in place in the last 18 months, including testing at the airport. We PCR'd test everybody once before they went to site. In recent times, we've been relying on our testing that's on site, so we have rapid antigen testing on site. Anybody at one of our sites who presents with cold and flu symptoms is immediately isolated and tested. So we've got very good testing protocols in place, and we're considering bringing in testing, rapid antigen testing at the airport before flying to a Fortescue site, and we're working with the Department of Health on that.
Should the vaccine be mandatory?
We're supportive of the government's rollout of the vaccine. I do think we have a way to go yet to determine that vaccine hesitancy. The rate of vaccination in Western Australia is actually quite low at the moment, at around 16%. We've been saying for some time that we think business and the mining industry has a role to play in helping to roll out vaccination. So let's focus first on getting those people vaccinated who are eligible. We'll work out what the vaccine hesitancy rates are, and then we can determine how we take it from there.
There's been a lot of discussion this week about the decarbonisation of the globe and where mining sits within that space. FMG is also trying to I guess, expand its operations with green hydrogen. Where do you see that particular element, I guess, in that broad space?
Well, there's no doubt that this shift to clean energy is happening much more rapidly than anybody anticipated, even when we were at Diggers last year. We're putting a lot of effort and investment into this opportunity because there is no doubt that there will be significant demand for green hydrogen and green ammonia and clean energy more broadly. So the transition is happening, and for those who aren't doing it, they're actually building up some risk in their business, because whether it's ESG investors, the focus on ESG credentials, that's really important, because if you're not actually ahead of the game in terms of ESG, then you could miss out on large pools of capital. But it also means that we are actually contributing to our very significant target of being carbon neutral by 2030.
Is there a future where Fortescue is more an clean energy provider than it is an iron ore producer?
Well, we're committed to our iron ore business, and we're reinvesting in the iron ore business. We have a growth strategy. We're investing in the Iron Bridge magnetite project, and that's investment of $3.3 to $3.5 billion for ourselves and our joint venture partner. So there's no shortage of investment in the iron ore business, and it's a highly successful business for Fortescue and for our stakeholders. We do see a future where energy and green energy plays a significant part of Fortescue in the group. And over time, that probably could actually dwarf the iron ore industry because of the global nature of that transition to green energy. But iron ore will also always be a very important part of our overall business.
Is the mining sector still very much a boys' club?
Well, the mining sector has to date been dominated by men, and I think the participation rate of women has actually been relatively low. Now, we're seeing some improvement in that, but today at Diggers I'm one of 4 female speakers, so clearly there's still a long way to go. But I'm really encouraged by what we're seeing in the increase in diversity. And I know at Fortescue we are leading the way. You know, we have one of the most diverse boards on the ASX. We have diversity in our senior management ranks. We have diverse workforce. And diversity is not just about gender. diversity is much broader than that. It's about ethnicity, it's about religion. So we encourage a very diverse workforce. And I'm really proud of Fortescue's track record in that. I think there's more the industry can do. We're all working hard to do that, and I know many in the industry are committed to diversity. So I think it's changing. I think it's still got a way to go. Has it changed as much as I thought it might have in the last decade? Maybe not, but the signs are encouraging.
What's FMG doing to ensure that its workplaces are ones that women want to be a part of? Obviously, there's a Senate inquiry into sexual harassment at some locations. How's FMG making their places somewhere that women want to be?
Well, it's critically important to us that everyone who works at Fortescue is aligned with our culture and values, and we will not tolerate harassment, bullying, intimidation, or anything that's not aligned with our core values of respect and integrity. So first and foremost, we set the culture, and that culture is supportive of women in the workforce. But we have to be practical about it as well. We're undertaking currently a workplace integrity review, and that's a combination of an online survey so we can hear directly from our team members what makes them feel safe, what makes them maybe feel unsafe. We're also holding focus groups across our operations to hear directly from them, and we're also conducting an independent site security review. But rather than sitting in Perth and saying, we know the answers and we're going to tell you what we're going to do, we're actually asking those people who live on our sites every single day what makes them feel safe and what areas can we improve. So that's really important, that we listen, that we take on board that advice, and that we actually put practical initiatives in place that makes everybody feel safe and a part of an inclusive workforce.
Finally, labour shortages are an issue, particularly in WA. How are you addressing those concerns?
Well, labour shortages are an issue in Western Australia, and I know it's been a key theme here at Diggers about the shortage of truck drivers. But at Fortescue, we were a very early adopter of autonomy. So we have one of the largest fleets in the world of autonomous haulage. So we actually aren't exposed to that same shortage of truck drivers. There are some key skills where we're seeing shortages, and the border closures don't help, so the lack of mobility of the workforce. So we're also competing in the same market for certain key skills and trades that are under pressure. But we're responding to that. We're finding that we're getting good employment. We have low turnover. We've got a very strong employment brand, and we're not seeing the same pressures. And as I said, we're not exposed to the shortage of truck drivers. But we're not complacent about it also. So we need to stay in keeping with the current market conditions, and we're planning our workforce requirements, and we're making sure that we have the settings in place that encourage people to work with Fortescue.
Elizabeth Gaines, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Rachel.